Namo Narayana. Hello, devotees of Chicago, Bari. So we are today, the third lecture on the topic of astronomy and astrology area by Sri Ram Ramanujam from West Virginia. Thank you. With that, let me hand over the mic to Mr. Sri Ram.
Swami froze up.
Yeah, we are there. Okay. We are on now. Sorry.
Am I audible?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, for some reason.
கொஞ்சம் sound increase பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். Little more sound.
Yeah. So I think there was a little bit of a lag in the connection. That's why we had a bit of a.
Yeah, now it's fine. It's absolutely
okay. Excellent, Swami. Thank you for the introduction.
No.
It's my privilege to be again speaking to you all. Thank you very much, Jai Shri Narayana. Today's topic is going to be Chandra, the moon. The moon is you're going to look at the aspects of how Chandra dictates not only the way we see the days, the months, the years, but also in Puranic evidence on how it's Chandra as a planetary body, right, is the most underrated, in terms of how the Western world sees Chandra, the moon. They believe Chandra is nothing more than an asteroid, an ancient asteroid that got stuck in the Earth's gravitational movements. The sun and the Earth's gravitational movement, and it is there as if it plays no great role in terms of how the Earth functions. But we're going to look at how scientifically and also in our Puranic terms how important Chandra is. You would be very surprised at the value that Chandra brings to us. First of all, I want to kind of draw your attention to the fact that Chandra and Surya in our Vedic terms are a class of devatas. Many of you may have heard that there are 33 classifications of devatas. They're just a hierarchy, right? Srimad Narayana creates the world, and then there are different classifications of how things are managed. There are 12 Adityas. Sun is not one among the Aditya. I want to make sure that you all recognize the fact that Aditya is the light giving, the energy source, not really the function of the sun. It's a function of the sun, but it is an additional function of the sun in terms of the planetary system. So there are 12 Adityas. There are 11 Maruts. Maruts are nothing more than forces of nature that inhibit inertia. So they provide inertia to every living thing. And there are 8 what is called Ashtavasus. So Ashtavasus, by the name of Vasu or Vishnu, it almost says that they exist in many different forms. For example, water, right? Water is one of the Ashtavasu. It exists outside in the oceans. It exists out in the rivers. It exists within us also. So there's water in our bodies. So that's part of it. And sun and the moon actually form part of Ashtavasus. Truly speaking, they exist in many different galaxies. They are, the function of the moon is to stabilize the bigger planets. The function of the sun is to bring light. And the light that he brings as a planetary system, there's all the fission, fusion, whatever happens, right? That capacity is dictated by the Adityas. So that's why there are 12 Adityas, and each of the 12 Adityas or months in our, calendar. So the reason for my mention here is a moon for us is a devata of the class called Chandra. Even the Vedas say Chakshu Suryo Jataha, right? Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So the Surya and the Chandra are two integral parts. They existed even when the churning of the ocean took place, right? They were the ones that showed Swarbhanu, who turned into Rahu and Ketu. So we'll talk about that also at a certain point in time. So what I'm trying to say here is the moon that exists, that we see in our, the solar planetary system, is not only the one moon that we have, right? When we talk about like things like Saturn, Jupiter, they have tons of moons, right? There are 70 some moons in Jupiter. There are 29, 30 moons for Saturn. They all exist because Jupiter, for example, is a large planetary body, even though it's gaseous. In order to keep the rotation and the revolution constant and to stabilize it, there are as many moons. In our case too, right? The Earth as such has this one moon that stabilizes us. When you look at our, many of you may have studied in your schools that our Earth is rotating at a tilt of 23.5 degrees. We are rotating constantly at a 23.5 degrees, and that tilt is what, when we revolve around the sun, it provides us the different seasons. Imagine if we were straight and we were revolving, in perpendicular to the axis of our movement. There would be no seasons at all, right? North America would see the same temperature all through the year. The equator would be burning all through the year. There would be no seasonal changes at all as we revolve around the sun. The tilt is so important that it provides us the various seasons, because when you have a tilt like this, when you're on the other side, that's what provides you the summer, and when you're on the other side of the sun is what provides us the winter. And all of this is necessary because of the changes it brings to the environment around us. Trees need a break. They take a great break during winter. They hibernate, rejuvenate themselves, and come back in spring with full form. So that tilt is basically being held by the moon. If not for the moon, that tilt would not be there, and we would be wobbly. I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago that the great speeds at which we revolve and rotate, no large planetary body like the Earth would be able to rotate without the wobbliness. So if we were to wobble, what would really happen is we would, again, our seasons would get screwed up, our day, right? Our day would not be the same. You'd probably see 100-degree is in the morning and 30 degrees in the night, because we don't know how the wobbling would affect the atmosphere around us. So the moon plays a very critical role in making sure that we don't wobble, and at the same time, when he rotates, he makes sure that we have the tilt that is so important for us. Now I'm going to kind of show you how that works, right? So as it moves, and when it moves, right, doesn't move around the sun in a straight line too. It is going to move up and down. It goes along like an 8, actually. I don't know if people have seen the infinite symbol, and that's exactly how it moves. It goes up like that, and may come down like that, and go up, down like that. So it just has a pattern to it that keeps it very, very stable. So as when the Earth was being formed for life during prior to Shvetavaraha Kalpa, right? The function of the moon was supposed to be to stabilize, to go around the Earth. But what really happened at that time, right? It got stuck with a synchronous orbit around the Earth. So where is Rohini? I think I want to kind of point out to Rohini. So Rohini is a star, a constellation that we're going to talk about at some point in time, or probably next time. So what happened at one point in time was the moon was in synchronous orbit around the Earth, and it just kept going like that, in the sense that it never moved. It just got stuck in the Earth's gravitational pull and got stuck right there, and it couldn't do its function. The Earth was not habitable. There was a time when Chandra now being the function, had to take the help of Shiva. Shiva, as you know, is Chandra's brother-in-law, Daksha Prajapati, right? We need to talk a little bit about Puranas also, because that's how the connection comes in. Our planetary bodies are very much interrelated, interconnected to our Puranas. So Shiva, right? Shiva's consort, right, is Parvati. Parvati is also Daksha Prajapati's daughter. Daksha Prajapati, as a function, is somebody that's in charge of spreading mankind. Daksha Prajapati is the chief during this kalpa, who helps create more human and other living beings, not just humans, but every form of life. So Parvati's has 27 other sisters. They form the constellations of the nakshatra that we're going to see at some point in time, as we go along. So I've laid it out there in the sky. They exist even today. So apparently, moon, the Chandra, right? Chandra is given in marriage to all 27 nakshatras. So again, nakshatras are also devatas. They're also minor devatas. Keep in mind. So they're living entities in a different form that Chandra marries. Now Chandra is having a tough time in stabilizing the earth. He's not able to stabilize the earth, physically, make it habitable for people to live, because his function is supposed to be to make sure that there's a tilt, and we don't have a wobble. We have a consistent temperature, climatic conditions, everything. The moon is also adipati of water. I also want to mention that, right? When we talk about new moon or full moon, we know that the gravitational pull of the moon is what has our ebbs and flows on our oceans. It has astrologically, moon is called adipati of water, Varuna. So every river that flows, all the seas that kind of raise up and down, are all attributable to the moon's function. So moon has an important role to play in many things, right? In our monthly cycles, the humans are tuned to the moon. The crabs actually that live on the seashore, or even if you pull them out, right, the crabs know when it's new moon, when it's full moon. They they dig. Okay, they dig in the sand and hide themselves, because there's going to be a higher water that comes on shore. Even if you pull them and put them in a laboratory outside of this nature, they can time themselves. Whenever there's a new moon, they try to hide themselves. So such is the power of the moon. The moon is an integral part of our lives. It controls the mind. It's the soma. So there's a lot of things that said about how the moon plays a great role on the mind also. Now, having such an important position, he still is not able to stabilize the earth to make it livable. That's when he asks for help of Shiva. Shiva, being the brother-in-law, he gives him the jnana, uh, because he's not able to perform his function as the moon for the earth. Daksha Prajapati gets a little mad at him for not being doing his duties. So he tells him that you want to kind of fade away. You just are stuck to one nakshatra. You looks like you're no good for doing your job. And that's how Shiva and Chandra then devise a way to kind of get their orbits or synchronization in place. So so because Shiva helps Chandra, is the reason why we have names like Chandra Chuda. So now Chandra is being helped by Shiva. So Shiva needs a glory, right? The crowning glory. So he puts him on his Jatamudi. He puts him on his crown. That's why he's called Chandramauli. He's called Chandra Chuda for this very reason, because he helps Moon get its place on the earth, for the earth, in terms of getting it going, giving it the seasons, and making it habitable. Now, the one thing that we want to look at today is the fact that when we measure a tithi, right, tithi forms an important part of our Indian calendar. So we have what's called the 15 days, right? And once in 14 days, the phases of the moon changes. It's called a fortnight, right? The 14th night is how the 18th night is how the 18th night is when the phase of the moon changes. Now, when you are in at a 0 degrees, the angular distance, as they call it. So the angle between the sun and the moon is at 0 degrees. This is when it is called the Amavasya. So Amavasya is the new moon, because moon is going to start forming from that day, and that's the reason why we have new moon. So moon is going to be dark, because we are going to be, when we have a night, we are going to be facing this side. So this is the side that we are going to be facing when it's a night for us. The moon is going to be behind us, so we don't have any moon here. Hence, there's no moon. New moon's got no moon. Now, as the days go by, right? He's going to, like, remember I said, all of us are revolving in an anti-clockwise direction. Now, as the moon revolves around the earth, it's going to start, we're going to start seeing parts of it. Even when you're here, it's going to be high up there. You're going to see parts of it that is illuminated by the sun. That is the part that we say the different titis. It goes from the first day of Pratama, second day Dvitiya, right? A little bit of the moon you start to see, Tritiya, right? Then Chaturthi, then Panchami, then Shashti, then Saptami. Up until 7, the phases of the moon is exactly in a curvature. There's a curvature. On the 8th day, which is the Ashtami, right? You're halfway down there. Your moon is exactly half. So all the changes that you saw prior to the 8th day is clearly different and visible. And that difference is exactly how the 7 days of the week comes into picture. So if you take any culture anywhere in the earth, the week has only 7 days, including our own. But we are the ones that kind of defined it by looking at the moon. The moon is such a beautiful planetary body also, that you can study it as much as you want. Sun is kind of scary. You really cannot see him with your naked eyes. You really need to be proficient in either Vedas, or you need to have telescopes that let you see it. That's why people are finding more about it, but our ancestors already knew about the sun and its capability much earlier. But we chose to ignore it, but right now we are catching up. But again, I want to go back to the fact that the first 7 days of the moon are distinctly different, either in one of the pakshas, right? If there's a, so this is called the Shukla Paksha, because you're growing. When you're at a 0 degrees, that's something that I wanted to kind of mention is, as you're growing and losing your darkness, it's called the Shukla Paksha. Shukla is you're growing whiter. Hence, on the 8th day, you're at half. It's going to start repeating. The process is going to be, then after the 8th day, you're going to start seeing the same pattern of the moon for the next 7 days. So hence, you have 7 days for your week. Now, as the days go by, and when the moons, the sun, the earth is also, you know, will have moved, by then. So now the moon's going to kind of be right here at 180 degrees with the sun. So the earth is at the center, and the angular distance, if you look at it, is going to be at 180 degrees. And that's how we measure Tithi. So every 20-degree movement is what defines 23 degrees movements is what defines the Tithi for us a day. Is how we start to measure. And when it's 180 degrees is when it becomes a Purnima. So when it is a Purnima, it's the full moon, and that's how you see the moon on our night. It's night, we are facing this side. Remember that we are facing this side. It's daytime for somebody else, and when we see the full moon, that's exactly what we call it a Purnima. And the Purnima is what defines, like I did mention last time too, the Purnima, the nakshatra on where the moon's going to be be on the Purnima is what defines our month. So the month is also guided by the moon, because the 30 days rotation that it does is what defines the days for us. Every day as a tithi. Uh, the only difference is some calendars start their month on a Purnima, and some calendars start their month on an Amavasya. Except for that one subtle difference, the 30 days revolution of the moon around the earth defines a month for us. And so does many different cultures too, but ours was primarily based on the extremely important for us where we are. So it defines a week is what the week is going to be for us too. So that's how the moon keeps going around. And one other thing I want to kind of mention is the fact that when moon tries to revolve around the earth, it goes in this pattern like that, and the earth, if it is there right here, would have moved already. So it's trying to, it kind of comes up like that and comes around the earth, path earth, it's going to take a wave-like formation. Sinusoidal wave is how the moon travels. So moon never travels fully around the earth, because the earth is also moving. The earth is moving and it's trying to play catch up. Did I say that right? So I think that should make sense, hopefully. If it doesn't, I can try to explain it again with another diagram. But the moon, as it revolves, the earth is moving also. It tries to play catch up. It goes behind the earth, comes around that way, goes around, comes around. So that's how the moon chases the earth around, keeps it stable, gives us uh, you know uh, the consistency that we want to see between the nights and the days in terms of the temperature. It gives us the four seasons. Actually, the seasonal differences are absolutely made possible because of the tilt. If not, it would be impossible for it. And all I want to kind of leave you with today is the fact that we're going to cover the nakshatras that are sitting out there, uh, at the periphery, because they're all around in the sun and in the sky. The open sky has many different constellations. So the moon, going around the Earth as it revolves, it also has a bearing to which nakshatra you can point it out too. And that's how a day is also measured. And I'll explain to you astrologically also why we consider a nakshatra for some things. Uh, we consider a tithi for doing some certain karmas. Nakshatras we do for certain karmas. It's kind of different, but we'll explain to you the real reason why these devatas have a bearing on us, including the planets bearing on us. Um, Hopefully that covers everything for what we wanted to kind of talk about the moon. Yeah. So now, as we go around, right? We were in Shukla Paksha when we were at 0 degrees. We were at Krishna Paksha, and then we kind of started to go on Shukla Paksha, right? Now, as we go around like that, right? Now you're going to start seeing the same pattern where it was. When you come to this point, you're going to see a half moon again. So the half moon, this traverse, on the other side of the earth is called Krishna Paksha. So that's when you're going to start seeing the Krishna, the darkness, become increasing. That increases. So as it goes around like that, the darkness of the moon is what's going to start to increase from when we see from this side of the earth. So because as till it goes here and becomes a full black circle, right? That's what's called the Krishna Paksha. So anything that's from this point on going towards this side is Shukla Paksha. Going towards a Paurnami, Shukla Paksha. Going back from a Paurnami into Amavasya is what is called a Krishna Paksha. So that's why you have the tithis that start with the same Shukla Pratama, Shukla Dvitiya, Shukla Tritiya, and you have the same thing on the other side. You have Krishna Pratama, Krishna Dvitiya, and Krishna Tritiya, so on and so forth. So that's what dictates our Krishna Paksha and Shukla Paksha. Hope that was informative to everybody. I'll leave you with that thought, and perhaps next week we can look at how our hero, the sun, defines many things for us in terms of not only the calendar but giving us the seasons and defining the 12 months that make up the Sauramana calendar. Today we covered what's Chandramana calendar and the time and the dates that define for the moon. With that, I conclude today's lecture. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Jai Shri Narayana.
Again, devotees, thank you, Sri Ram Ramanujam. Thanks a lot. It has been very interesting indeed, that one. And we looking forward for for your lecture next week. Thank you very much. So with this, we conclude today's satsang. Thank you.